Agent 47 is back in his third installment of the long-running action RPG franchise, Hitman. Is it a good game? That's the question we're going to answer today.
Chongqing, China. This city is Big Brother's wet dream with more than 2.5 million cameras covering 15 million people. Privacy is a four-letter word in this place. It's pretty ironic that a cloak and dagger organization like the ICA keeps its most valuable secrets here.
Hey everyone, Electronic Farts here, and today we're reviewing Hitman 3, a third-person looter-shooter action RPG by IO Interactive. Set in the inevitable near-future cyberpunk globalist dystopia, Agent 47 travels around the globe, exploring vast open worlds and absolutely annihilating anyone who stands between him and his lust for vengeance. First and foremost, the story and storytelling are Hitman 3's crown jewel. I mean that. Despite its open-ended level design, the now Hitman trilogy delivers a gripping international spy thriller. As such, I'll be avoiding any spoilers for Hitman 3, but might have some minor spoilers for Hitman 1 and 2. Speaking of Hitman 1 and 2, this brings me to my first combined praise and criticism of Hitman 3. While the storytelling is excellent, it's a bad sequel. By that I mean it doesn't stand on its own legs. Hitman is not actually a trilogy of 3 games, it's one game split into 3 games. Hitman 3 delivers a gripping climax to the prior games, but you cannot enjoy it without having played the previous ones. The brief recap of events cutscene is outright half-assed, getting less attention than the briefings for the missions in the Sniper Elite minigame. They could have at the very least spent a half a day cutting together a video montage of the past 2 games' cutscenes for the poor fools who buy this game as their entry point to the series. Now, for longtime Hitman fans, this won't pose an issue. IOI has kindly included Hitman 1 and 2 as DLC for Hitman 3, and it's actually free if you already own them. It's also safe to assume that longtime Hitman fans are up to date on the story, having owned the games, and don't require the series to stand alone. They can just go back and easily watch cutscenes or even replay the missions as refreshers. Hitman 3 is the third act of the Hitman story, it's not its own story. It's not even technically a brand new game, it's still running on the same engine, except for maybe now it has some ray-traced reflections, which could have been done as an update. Which is why it's unfortunate that Hitman 3 released as an Epic Games exclusive. Previously, Epic had tried to bribe my loyalty with a free copy of Hitman 1, and despite not having to pay for that DLC, it didn't ease the sting of spending over $100 for content I already own and would have been free if I had purchased it on Epic Games. And that's over $100 with an 80% discount on said DLC that will likely be expiring before you see this video. But at least they let me transfer my save game progress, so that was pretty cool, I guess. IOI is like an abusive lover who's really hot and has nice feet. I'm not crazy about their business practices, but they make up for it in other ways. Hitman fans are going to decide for themselves if they're invested enough in the story to want this installment, but for newcomers, I can't recommend it on these issues alone. Hitman 3 isn't just a $80 full-priced title. With the mandatory DLC, you're going to be paying well over $200. And I say mandatory DLC because Hitman 3 is purely the climax of the story. Even the average location size in Hitman 3 feels a lot smaller than prior games, especially the Chongqing, China level, which was especially small given that it's Hitman 3's hub world, and it's even smaller when you compare it to the Mumbai level from Hitman 2. This would have been less of an issue if Hitman didn't exist as 3 separate games, but one game called Hitman, where all of this content was DLC. In fact, that was originally the vision, but nobody liked that. And so this is what we got as the result, and there were some unintended consequences too. For example, Hitman 1 and 2's cutscenes left a lot to be desired. While the story was excellent, the presentation was literally a slideshow. The DLC model they had tried to impose backfired completely and almost killed the franchise until they retooled it into this, which is almost the exact same thing but backwards. Rather than buying the rest of the story as DLC, you can buy the prior installments. For $80, I would say that Hitman 3 is an overpriced scam, but for $235, I would say Hitman is actually one of my favorite games of all time. I think $235 is a bit overpriced, but that can be chalked up to the time dilation due to development problems with how they initially launched and needed to recoup the money to complete their vision. That said, I can't simp too hard for IOI here, because with the price tag of the Hitman 1 and 2 DLCs, they could have at least updated the slideshow cutscenes from the original games. There's been no change to Hitman 1 or 2 if you play them in Hitman 3, save for whatever graphical updates they've implemented in the exact same engine that could have been a game update for either of the prior two games. As I said, all three of these games are the exact same game, split into separate games. Kind of like Blood Dragon with Far Cry 3, except charging full price instead of a third. I can't complain too much because the game and storytelling itself is immaculate. In fact, this might be the future we see for gaming, kind of like a Paradox interactive game where everybody complains the DLC is overpriced but still buys it. Niche games with a high price tag but focused on delivering exactly what their fans want and doing a good job of it too. Because while I can say that Hitman, the trilogy as a whole, is disgustingly overpriced, with some absolutely shitty business practices to boot, I've only ever had a very small list of complaints about the game itself. A core player goal in Hitman has always been to aspire to be a silent assassin, to take out your target in a way that looks like an accident and not alert anybody else that you were even there. While the Hitman franchise delivers more silent assassin paths now than they ever have, they also now have story missions which tell you exactly what a silent assassin path is and when it's happening and how to do it. They give you a nice puzzle to solve, but also give you the answer. Now, this can be deactivated by playing on the hardest difficulty, but honestly, it shouldn't be in the game at all. Even the easiest puzzles in the world don't tend to come with the answer sheet. It defeats the entire purpose of having a puzzle. And in Hitman, these puzzles are optional in the first place. They're to display absolute mastery over the game. You arguably need to play a level on normal the first time simply to explore it and get your bearings, and at that point the game's just gonna give away the answer to its puzzles to unlock the 5-star ranking. You don't need to complete story missions to beat the level, so it just undermines any sense of achievement for discovering clever ways to beat the level. Like, why? Why'd you tell me that? I wanted to solve that myself, on any difficulty. I'm playing this game on the hardest difficulty by default, because I'm fucking awesome. But even if I was a games journalist and playing this on easy, worst case scenario, I wouldn't even know what I was missing. Best case scenario, I wouldn't appreciate the answer in the first place. These people are so easy to please. They enjoy Marvel movies. Imagine a filthy rat clutching a golden ring. It doesn't know what it has, it just knows that it's shiny. As I said, story missions shouldn't be in the game at all, and at the very least they should be restricted to easy. And no, this isn't a nitpick. This is actually the one game assist that you can't turn off. You can turn off the minimap, which turns off the indicator if you're trespassing as well. They're attached. That sucks. You can turn off the Hitman X-ray vision, which I'd leave on, even though it's technically a cheat and it shouldn't be in the game. The fact is, it's objectively an advantage. You can use it on even the hardest difficulty, and its narrative wrapper is sufficient. You're Agent 47, you're the best hitman who's ever existed and will ever exist. It makes sense that you can kind of hear if someone's on the other side of the wall. It's fucked up, you can see the whole silhouette and exactly how they're standing, and if they're the type of unit who can see through your disguise or not. and exactly where your target is on the map and what they're doing no matter what, even if you don't have any intel on them yet. But it does make sense that Agent 47 would have a higher level of instinct than the typical person. And when you're playing on the hardest difficulty and one mistake can screw up your entire run, there's no real reason not to use it at that point, which is again why it just shouldn't be in the game or should be restricted to lower difficulties. But if the game decides X-ray vision is available to me on the hardest difficulty, why shouldn't I just use it? Apparently it's just a UI preference. Agent 47 is just psychic, I guess. I'm not trying to be an elitist. Hell, I'm willing to compromise. Just why aren't these things at the very least excluded from the hardest difficulty? It's supposed to be the hardest difficulty. It's supposed to be an achievement. I don't understand this trend of developers who insist on casualizing games to the point where they undermine their hard difficulty setting. Like, you have this easy mode already implemented for games journalists, that's what it's for. Do whatever the fuck you want there. I don't care, because I don't play on easy because I'm not a little bitch. You don't need to make the hardest setting easy. In fact, you should be aspiring to make it as impossibly hard as you can. I'm not joking or saying that ironically. When you're designing the hard setting for a game, you should be punishing players for not trusting you that normal was the correct setting. I can't really knock the game for this because this is every developer these days, so whatever, I guess. But that's enough about the bad and the ugly. What's the good? Why do I love Hitman so much that I'm willing to spend embarrassingly irresponsible amounts of money playing it, buying redundant content that was already overpriced when I bought it the first time, all while dealing with IOI's bullshit and its unnecessary online-only functionality, which bothered me a little bit, constantly and without mercy. Few things in a single-player game can be more immersion-breaking than the server telling you basically to get fucked. I know I just said that I was going to talk about what I liked about the game, and then proceeded to complain about the online-only features, but the frequent disconnections undermine my ability to enjoy the game at every single turn. And it's not like I'm playing with some potato internet, not that I should need an internet connection for a single-player game to begin with. I won't brag about my internet connection speeds, but let's just say that it's a wired connection and I don't have these problems playing fully online competitive games. It's curious that Counter-Strike, Call of Duty, Far Cry, pick any shooter, can keep its servers online without you disconnecting almost hourly, all with a ping as low as 20 sometimes, and yet IOI can't have even a little bit of a buffer for disconnections when you're playing a single-player game? How hard would it be to make a timer running in the background for like a minute? Give me a minute for your server, not my connection, to get its shit together before telling me to fuck myself. Or better yet, why even have this feature at all? Besides copy protection, it doesn't even serve as a feature, but quite literally as a constant bug. I don't think at any time I played for more than an hour and a half without it disconnecting at least once, and if I was to average it out, it would probably be a disconnection every 45 minutes. Game will even disconnect itself from IOI's servers when you're sitting on the main menu, and this isn't even to address if I want to play the game when I just don't have an internet connection. There's technically an offline mode, but it locks you out of all of your character progress, all of the cutscenes, everything except for playing the game in what is essentially the demo mode. Why are you punishing me for giving you hundreds of dollars? I don't understand. This online functionality does not add any features to the game that wouldn't work on an opt-in system that hundreds of games have been using for a very long time. In fact, this online-only feature only serves to strip features out of the game if it loses a connection. And this isn't a new problem to Hitman 3, it was endemic to my experience in Hitman 2 as well. So while I want to go on and praise the game, justifying all of the money that I've given this studio, I also want you to keep that in mind as we progress, that it constantly disconnects you from playing. And while this system has successfully restricted pirates to the demo version, it's only ever served to punish the paying players. I have to seriously wonder if the amount of sales lost to piracy really makes up for the amount of sales lost due to these kinds of shitty business practices. I'm something of a Hitman fan myself. I've been a fan of the franchise since the 1995 movie with Jason Statham, Hitman Blood Money. And here I am struggling to justify recommending it to anyone except for die-hard Hitman fans, who aren't going to need anybody's review to make up their mind, because if you've played Hitman 1 or 2, you already know exactly what to expect from Hitman 3, and if you're interested in wrapping up the story or not. Which brings me to what I do love about Hitman. Every facet of Hitman coalesces to help deliver its story, and I don't just mean dialogue or cutscenes. From the dynamic soundtrack to NPC conversations, even Agent 47's idle animation reveals tics and insights into his character. When I say Hitman's writing is good, I don't mean good like a capeshit movie or like Cyberpunk 2077, where your best friend is introduced in a montage and then killed off with no fanfare, where you're expected to listen to a bunch of speeches at a funeral to feel empathy for them. I don't mean fake good writing like that. People are so dopamine starved that most basic emotional manipulation wins standing ovulations. When I say good writing, I mean the kind of writing where a single sentence can send a chill down your spine.
Miss Birdwood, we won a long time ago. This is maintenance.
Or reveal a deep aspect about the relationship between two characters and what they think about each other.
Best of luck, gentlemen.
I don't rely on luck.
Well, a little wouldn't hurt. Okay, one more time. We break into the vault, extract the hard drive rack, and eliminate the director on the way out.
We.
You. Good luck, 47.
I don't rely on luck.
Where the menu music can almost bring you to tears. Hitman's writing instills a sense of awe. The story alone makes Hitman worth all the other bullshit that I have to put up with to play it. There's not much more I can really say without spoilers. That said, I just don't know how I can recommend it to a newcomer with all of the issues that I've mentioned. That's something you're gonna have to decide for yourself. I personally